Hello everyone, Throttle-On John here. I just wanted to kind of make a video talking about when you get a used car, what kinds of things would you want to consider doing to make it reliable. So here we have our new to me but well loved and used 2003 RAV4. It's an automatic two-wheel drive, and so here we are. I just wanted to show midstream. As you can see, we have struts that are being replaced. We're replacing the struts on it. We had to get new tires because the tires were shot. So now we have nice new, some Vulcan Wild Peaks on there. I have some aftermarket headlights coming. I've tried clearing these, but they're just going to keep fogging up. You know, the engine, we had some oil leaking from the head gasket. So I just, for the cost of a head gasket and a little silicone here up where at these edges, we were able to fix that leak. That was really the only oil leak on this Toyota, which is common for these engines when they're over 20 years old. We got new spark plugs in there. That was pretty easy. New air filter. I sucked the power steering fluid out and put new power steering fluid in. It doesn't look like it because it's stained. The plastic is stained from the old stuff. I've sucked the brake fluid out with a vacuum out through the, not the top here, but through the brake system. We've got new radiator hoses. Rubber is going to let you down on an old car. Rubber and gasket. So we got an upper radiator hose that we replaced. The lower radiator hose down here that we replaced. The thermostat is kind of behind this housing here. Had to remove this alternator to get that in there. An alternator, or a thermostat just lets regulates the water when it's warming up, so it can, the engine can warm up a little faster. But if it can stick open or closed, so that's a pretty cheap part. It's just a little labor getting it in there, but it can keep you from overheating. We of course changed the oil. We put a new serpentine belt on. That's an important one. Every 10 years, you definitely want to replace that. That can leave you stranded. Just a piece of rubber breaking. There's a water pump down in there. We replaced the water pump because this car has 100,000 miles. If it didn't have so many miles, probably would have just left it. But I'm trying to bulletproof this motor as much as I can so that it isn't requiring repairs. I think I mentioned this, but new air filter for the engine, new in-cabin filter. But again, rubber. I would say in order of importance, of course, change the oil. Look at your spark plugs or change them if they need it. But a belt should be on the top list, just serpentine belt. And then I would say hoses. I had a radiator hose burst on me once, and I used to think you could squeeze on them and tell how good they were. And the old hoses that were over 20 years old, were the original OEM hoses, I could tell they felt very good. But I did that once. I had a mechanic even inspect it when I was in college, a radiator hoses, and I'm not kidding. I was there in the middle of winter. I had to replace a radiator hose outside because I was a student. I didn't have a nice place to work on a car, and I was doing that. And the hose looked fine, but it blew a hole in it. So just, my rule of thumb is every 10 years I just replace radiator hoses and belts. You could do it probably sooner than that, but I would consider that a bare minimum. And, flushing the brake fluid. Okay, so here we go. I had to put new brakes and rotors on this. That's done. So you always want to look at your brakes. I did put a new idler on here. There's a bearing in the idler, and I just didn't want that to seize up and cause trouble. So we did that. We pulled the drums and cleaned it out. The rear drums were fine. And the brake pads were fine. This car's shocks didn't probably need to be replaced, but I got to deal with the struts, so they were Toyota shocks. I'm just replacing those. So you can check your shocks. Exhaust was fine. Just kind of going around the car. These bump stops were pretty easy to replace. There's just a 12-meter bolt up in here, and you don't have to remove the spring or anything. So we went ahead and replaced those because they were shot. That's kind of optional. Transmission fluid. We changed the transmission fluid, and that was pretty easy and inexpensive, and changed the filter in it. As you can see, nice pink fresh coolant in here, as well as in the radiator. When we were doing the hoses, we drained the coolant and put all new coolant in, so now we know that's good for many years to come. And now we can get on a regular maintenance schedule. So those are all things, when I'm looking at a used car, the things that I'll do to, in a sense, bulletproof it. When I drive a used car, I'm really checking for a transmission problem or a major engine issue. And this car, when I drove it, the brake pedal was pulsing. I knew I needed new brakes and rotors, new pads and rotors. I could feel the brake pedal was pulsing up and down, and the car was surging as we stopped. But I knew brakes are fixable. It was just some warped rotors and worn pads. The engine ran fine. It wasn't smoking. The transmission shifted fine, but there were just little maintenance things. So when I'm looking at a used car, I'm really making sure that the engine and the transmission is okay, and all these other things, we got parts all over. These are things, if you're a little bit mechanical, that with a little love, you can get through them. I think between a friend and I, we got through most of this car in a week, and I was working full time, and I was just doing a little bit on the weekends, and he was working on it a little bit too, so we kind of tag teamed it a little bit, and it wouldn't even have to be done that quickly. You start with like the most important things, like maybe spark plugs, air filter, engine change, spark plug change for the engine, valve cover sealing. I don't like leaking oil. That really just bugs me. I don't like oil leaks that I can fix. Tires, that was up there. Brakes, that was something I wanted to do. I just have a towel over I have my brand new brake job. I just don't want to get dirt, because when you release these struts, dirt goes everywhere. Anyway, brakes were important. Brakes and tires, that's always a good place to start. But all that stuff can be worked on with a new car. And this car is in decent shape. Paint's still good. It's 105,000 miles. The interior is actually very nice. 20-year-old seats. There's just a little bit of wear right here, but it's so slight you can barely see it. But these seats have held up really, really well in this interior. Look at how nice. This was a single owner car, so I feel lucky that I got it. And look at the back seat here. We have a student driver, so we got our little student driver sign, but this has been a really good car for her to learn on, my daughter to learn on. Really, really just nice. Need a little cleanup. In the back, we probably got some stuff back here, but because we're working on replacing the shocks. Oh, and so I really like how Toyota, look, they put a little place here so you can access the shocks, to replace those. So nice. You can, access, like, to change a tail light through here. I just like how they think of those kinds of things. And I've lubricated the door hinges with some, white lithium grease and that thing, and and also this latch and this latch over here, up in there with some white lithium grease. So little things just to help the doors open and close a little better. So those are things you can do with a car. But listen to that. Everything's still nice and tight. Shut that door, and it's a 20-year-old car. Still has glossy paint. It's got some dents and scratches, but most of them are pretty superficial. Some will buff out. But yeah, Toyota quality. There isn't any rust under there. I could lift up the car, but there isn't any rust or anything, so you can just take my word for it. But yeah, so those are some of the things I look for. And yeah, the car's torn apart. It's in process, but really there's nothing here that's that I would say is complicated to do. Now, I guess a thought would be, if I was paying a shop to do all this stuff, I think my list of everything, excluding the tires, is around $1,500 in parts. But that was everything I could think of to put on this car. Minus the tires. But with me doing all the labor, I'm going to have a really nice car when everything's said and done, for people to drive. But if I were going to try to estimate the labor on all of this, I don't even know. I mean, maybe some of you could chime in. I mean, it'd be at least double the cost of the parts. I mean, I got $1,500 parts, maybe another $1,500, $2,500 in labor. I don't really know. So that would be something. I guess there is a point if you're going to have to pay someone to do all these repairs, then I think it could get expensive. But even then, I still think a car is worth it to go through it. This car, like I said, the brakes and the struts were really something. When you hit little bumps, there was no dampening left. It would knock. And the car care nut channel, he gave me helped me evaluate my struts, and they're trashed. We're using a spring compressor. Don't do this unless you're really familiar with it. It could be dangerous. I wasn't going to do it. My buddy's like, oh, it's easy. We'll just get a compressor. But you could always take them off, take them to a shop, have them swap the springs over, and then you could finish the job. That's what I was going to do. Until my buddy's like, no, we can do that. And he's right. He's doing it really easy. These struts are trash. I mean, you can pull on them by hand and push them in. There's minimal to no damping in there anymore. We're riding around on springs. So I'm really excited to drive the car with nice brakes and struts. I think it's going to drive like a new car again with new struts. And we'll get the headlights done. That'll be a priority. And that's a visibility thing, kind of a safety thing, I feel like. So there you have it. 20-year-old 2003 Toyota RAV4, over 20 years old, and worth fixing to have a little car to drive around for. We have a new driver, and so it'll work out pretty good for that. So hope this was useful. Things you can do for a new car. And again, most of these items just took time. They weren't necessarily difficult. They just took a bit of time. And hope this was helpful. And have yourself a great day. And I guess what I like about this is when everything's said and done, we're basically eliminating points of failure. We've eliminated a belt breaking and leaving you stranded. We've eliminated a water pump springing a leak and leaving you stranded. Spark plugs, valve cover was leaking. You're not going to have a spark plug hole filled full of oil because of a leaky valve cover gasket and cause misfiring. We've eliminated just a ton of things by doing this service. The brakes, but brakes are going to not let us down. So we're just eliminating points of failure here is all we're doing. So when you're looking at a car, basically look over rubber for things of rubber, and also thermostats, just little things that aren't expensive, but they can cause a little trouble. Now I should make a point, if this were not a reliable car, Toyota or a Honda or another car that you have found that's very reliable, there are many cars out there that are, I wouldn't go through all the time of doing all this, the brakes and the struts, because you'd hate to go, spend all this money on this car and then your transmission goes out, or your engine you need a new motor. At that point, throw away the car. It isn't worth it because you got too much money in it. So you want to make sure you're doing this to a reliable car. I mean, I would consider doing this to a RAV4, a Toyota Camry, some Lexus models, a handful of other cars or pickups. But you'd really want to pick your used vehicle carefully before you do something like this to it. And the make and model. And if in doubt, take the car to a mechanic to have the engine and transmission looked at, because if this car had an engine and or transmission problem, I'd be in it too far to make this wouldn't be worth all the money, these parts that I'm putting into it. We would have just said, well, maybe we'll do the brakes, make it safe, and you know, I would have gotten rid of the car. But everything was good. The more I got into it, the more it looked like it is what it's supposed to be, and we're gonna get it all put back to good health.